So let's talk a little bit about NJSACC. What does the organization do?
So we do a lot of different things, but most of our work is around technical assistance, professional development, resources, and capacity building for youth development professionals. And so we really hope that we work to make sure that all children in New Jersey have access to after-school and out-of-school time programs. And so we do that through, again, contracts and grants that we have with the state departments of human services and education, as well as some private foundation funding that funds some of our support and advocacy work. And so that's a lot of what we do at NJSACC, just really making sure that youth development professionals have the support and the resources that they need so that children have access to high quality after school programs.
Okay, so how many of those professionals are there, or how many after school programs are there?
Goodness, there's a lot of after school programs all over the state. As you could imagine, there are school programs that are in school districts, right? School run, maybe run by parents. But then you also have licensed childcare programs that are that accept subsidy, which is payments to help parents afford childcare. And so we have over 5,000 licensed and subsidized programs across the state of New Jersey. But then we also have 62 21st century community learning centers, which is a federally funded out-of-school time program, after-school program. We have 62 grantees across the state, and they serve over 13,000 children in 161 different communities across the state.
Wow.
And then we also have family child care providers that work with school-age youth as well in local communities.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It is.
What's the age range? Because when you're talking school age and you're talking child care centers, what's the gamut?
So school age is literally pre-kindergarten through 12th grade.
Okay.
And so, and each of those programs, of course, looks different. You're not going to do the same type of program for a pre-kindergarten or elementary school child that you would do for a high school youth. But the programs run the entire gambit of school age children from elementary school all through high school.
And I'm thinking some programs, they have a range of kids at the site. Right?
Yes, absolutely. So many programs will serve just maybe some typical age ranges like elementary and middle school. And then if you have some programs that are high school, pretty much they'll just serve high school students. But you will have some programs that have multiple ages that they provide services for. And so that's something that here at NJSACC we also help with in terms of professional development and building spaces that are really conducive to making sure that youth get all the developmentally or age-appropriate practices and activities that will really help them to develop.
So when you say professional development, talk a little bit about, are there regular trainings or seminars that I'm assuming they're members, right? You become a member of NJSACC?
But not necessarily, not formally. It's really, because we're state funded, it's a free organization. You sign up on what we call our NJSACC Flash. You get our newsletters, but we have annual conferences that we do. We have a 2-day annual conference that we do every year in April in Princeton. We have webinars that we do. We have workshops that we do. A lot of the topics that we get for workshops are things like supporting positive behavior, team building for staff. At our annual conference, we had over 40 workshops. We had closing sessions, we had opening sessions, we have networking opportunities. We have a professional development calendar that we do in the entire year. So it's just really a gambit. And then we also do on-demand professional development and on-site training and fee for service. So if we have agencies that want to get some intensive trainings, like particularly we had a 2-week training over I think the course of like 5 days of an agency that wanted all their staff trained before their summer program. And so 2 of the NJSACC staff spent 5 days with this organization with very specific targeted training that they wanted to do for team building and activity building once for their summer program.
So what kinds of things would you do over that 2-week period, just as an example?
So team building, they'll do activity preparation. They'll do literally hands-on activities that they can do with the children. So, activities like, it's summertime, have fun, but they could also be based in math or art or science. So it's literally taking curriculum that's either free or low cost and showing them how to implement it in a very interactive fashion.
So the idea being that after-school programs or out-of-school, which I'm assuming is summer camps, are supposed to be learning opportunities, right? If you're talking about curriculum.
Yes, they could be both. They're learning opportunities at a minimum. They should be getting some sort of academic enrichment and remediation if needed, but also like hands-on inquiry-based activities. So we have a curriculum we call CASP. It's 21st Century After School Partnership. And so we partnered with the Liberty Science Center to create a 2-chapter science water-based curriculum on New Jersey waterways. And so what we do, that's one of the trainings that we do, where we show them how to actually do the activities within the program. Things like how many drops of water can fit on a penny. Things of that nature, really low cost. So we will actually walk them through, the activities and the curriculum and how to do those different things. So that's based in science. So of course they learn science curriculum. For very many years, we had relationship with NBA Math Hoops, and they have actually math-based basketball board game. And now actually, I think they actually do a video game now too, where kids are learning math concepts through playing math games with, the NBA theme. So there's a lot of different activities that they can do that help to, really bolster their academic learning, support what they're doing during a school day, but also to be able to have fun as well.
So how does a after-school program know what they need in terms of whether it's math-based or science-based or a particular curriculum? Are there standards that everybody says, well, sign me up for this program?
Well, it depends on the funding that they receive for the program. So if it's a 21st Century Community Learning Centers funded program, they are a very, very rigorous program that's required to have a theme. So they have 4 themes that they have to follow, whether that be STEM or STEAM, college and career awareness, visual and performing arts, or college and career exploration. And so they have to build their program around that particular theme, but they are required to have academic remediation and enrichment. And so a lot of these programs have relationships with the school district and with the teachers that are working with the youth throughout the school day. So they can find out from the teachers what the youth really need assistance in. Many of the programs employ teachers that work during the school day, and they work, an extra job after school. And so they help them with their math, preparation. They help them with, test preparation, whatever it is that they feel like they need some additional help in. But the point of the after school program is to have them to do something that's enriching and fun and doesn't necessarily look like the school day. And so so if it's a 21st Century program, they do those things. If it's a licensed childcare center, they really want to make sure that they have enrichment that is helping the youth, because they spend a lot of their time there as well. So they may find curriculum that's age appropriate. So they could get that curriculum from us. They can get it from a lot of different places like Scholastic, those kinds of providers and vendors. But they can also come to us and say, we really want to do a STEM-based program. We really like robotics. How can we implement that? So we help them find ways to implement that, or help them through learning how to teach that kind of curriculum. We have one program, Boys and Girls Club at Mercer County. They run a wonderful program, and they have a makerspace. So they actually bought those 3D printers, and they have an entire science-based curriculum about making anything that the kids want to make. And then they're learning science principles at the same time. So it's really about the program and what they want to provide. But most after school and out of school time, which is summer learning, before care, after care, even sometimes programs will provide services over the holidays. They'll do things to make sure that the kids are having fun, but they're learning at the same time.
So what age group is that Mercer program?
They are, I want to say, elementary and middle school.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, they can make anything?
Anything. It's really fascinating actually to see these 3D printers, and they literally have this box, and the material comes in different things. I know one of them off the top of my head is like corn based somehow, and they literally they program, and the kids do this all themselves. They program the computer to say, I want to build a whistle, or, whatever it may be. And they program it into the computer, and the computer will build these things out of what looks like plastic, but they're like renewable materials and then make different things. And so they have like robotics programs. I've been to programs where the kids are using tablets to operate little like robots that are rolling around the floor, and they're telling them to go in different directions and, that kind of thing. So it's really interesting what the stuff that they can do in these programs. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like after school might be a lot more fun than school.
Well, I don't want to say that school isn't fun, but after school has flexibility in order to be able to not necessarily follow what has to happen during the school day, because we know the school has certain curriculum and things that they have to prepare for, right? Which is fabulous. But after school is really that time to say, let's take something that, you may not have fun, like fractions, and figure out how to, learn fractions with drumming and music. A lot of times the kids will always think about this video. It was something that Department of Education did where the kids learned how to learn fractions drumming. And they started like a whole visual and performing arts. They do stage and theater, all using fractions and, literacy concepts and things of that nature. So it's definitely, after school is definitely fun. I'm a product of after school and summer programming. So it is definitely fun. You get time to do things that you may not normally get to do throughout the school day.
Well, I mean, it sounds wonderful. And it's also great from what you said before is that a lot of times you might have teachers who are in the school who are now at the after school program. So there is some continuity where the program is touching base with the local school.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So who is running the after school programs?
So if it's like I said, 21st century program, it could be run by anybody. It can be run by a school district. It could be run by a church. It could be run by a community-based organization. It can be run by a licensed childcare provider. So it literally runs the gambit of anybody that wants that sees the need for an after-school program. And then follows, let's say, licensing regulations within the state and or 21st century community learning centers requirements. So literally colleges and universities run after-school programs. Rec centers, we have New Jersey Parks and Recreation. They have a whole host of rec centers throughout the state. So it's really runs the gambit of anybody that sees the need and then, figures out how to run a program according to state regulation.
So these 21st century programs, is that because there's funding that comes with that?
So yes. So 21st Century is federally funded out of the U.S. Department of Education. And so it is a competitive grant program and they run a different competitive every year. And so there's a certain amount of money that they can apply for based on the number of youth that they propose to serve. And so there's federal funding, which unfortunately we have to fight for every year, but it's a fantastic program that we've had for over 20 they're probably closer to 30 years. And it's, like I said, federally funded that is funneled through the New Jersey Department of Education. And so it's a grant program that they have to compete for. But it's a 5-year grant cycle and they can get funds all the way up until I think $550,000 per year to run a program. Now that would be at a higher level. I think the number is they have to serve 300 plus students. But I think even as low as $75,000 per year. And they would get that same amount of money every year for a 5-year grant cycle.
That's wonderful.
It is. It's a great program.
So how would one find out more information if they were interested in doing that? Would they contact NJSACC?
They could contact us because we do have the technical assistance grant as their provider working with the Department of Education. But the Department of Education runs a competitive grant application called a Notice of Grant Opportunity. And so they would reach out to the Department of Education to see when the grant is available for the competitive grant is available. And then we can help them navigate that process in terms of how to apply for the grant.
I'm assuming programs are held in all different locations, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And do they run all different times? So start with after school programs. Or they typically end at 6 or do they go later?
Typically, they end about 6 or 7, depending on the school. If the school ends, at 2:30, then they may only go from like 3 to 6, that kind of thing in terms of that transition. So typically it's in, between 3 and 4 to 6 or 7. That's a typical after school program. For some after school, and sometimes you hear me say out of school time, that also includes before care. So sometimes parents need to drop their children off before on their way to work. So they may have an hour or 45-minute before care program that may be part of out of school time where they may do shorter activities, of course. They may do some homework. Sometimes they give them breakfast. And they do that time before care. Some programs also have weekend programs that may not be on a regular basis, but it depends on what their funding is. And then some programs have summer programs, summer learning programs. And so like 21st Century is required to have a 6-week summer program. And so they provide services for at least 4 to 5 hours for 6 weeks of the summer. And then some programs will also provide services over extended holiday breaks like Thanksgiving or Christmas for that kind of thing.
Wow. Mm-hmm. But I guess it makes sense because people are working.
Absolutely.
Right?
Parents need the care. They want to know that their children are somewhere safe. Absolutely.
Right. How do these kids get back and forth, especially if you have to do preschool and after school?
Mm-hmm. So preschool, most likely their parents are dropping them off on the way to school. There may be some busing that happens if they're on their route on the way. After school, if the program is within the school district, then obviously they just go downstairs to the multipurpose room or the gym, that kind of thing. If it's not within the school district, if it's somewhere in their community, like within a short walking distance, they may walk to the program. Staff will come from wherever the center is and pick the kids up from the school and walk them to the program. If it's a little further, then the school or the program provides busing, school bus transportation to the programs.
And I guess that's probably what I've heard most about is even just that short ride. Sometimes that can get really expensive.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And why is that?
Busing is very expensive. School buses are very expensive for obvious reasons. You know, you want to make sure that buses are kept up, they're maintained. So busing can be very expensive. So what we try to help programs do is partner with the school district. See if they can pick the kids up, you know, let them get in a school bus and then take them to the center if that's something that they're able to do. Most of them try to work within the community, so the kids don't necessarily have to be bused. They can be walked to and from the program, and then their parents pick them up from the program. But school busing is very expensive. So we really try to help them to figure out if they can partner with the school district so the kids can be dropped off if it's not within the immediate community.
And then I'm thinking for summer camp, parents drop their kids off, probably, right?
Yes, most likely, yes. Unless the program has their own transportation, which is kind of few and far between because, again, it's expensive and you have to have the insurance to make sure that, you know, kids are in a safe, you know, an unsafe transportation. But most likely their parents are dropping them off. Mm-hmm.
And generally, what's the background of staff who work at these programs?
So some of the, like I said before, some of the after school or even the summer programs are teachers. You might even find retired teachers that are working in programs. But most of the time you have just people that are working in the community that enjoy working with children. And so those are the youth development professionals that we work with on a regular basis. People that have bachelor's degrees, people that, you know, have associate's degrees, or they just have years and years of experience working with youth in different venues. And so it's really those youth development professionals that go through training. If they work at licensed programs, they're required to do a certain amount of hours per year for their training. But it's really people that enjoy working with kids, and then they go through training based on what their funding is.
And do they tend to stay at a program for a long time, or is there a lot of turnover?
Well, unfortunately, there is a bit of turnover because unfortunately, a lot of the youth development professionals don't get paid a very good wage that they can really survive on. And so we found that especially during the pandemic, when programs closed down for obvious reasons, they went to other places where they made more money. And they didn't return necessarily. And so you may have people, if it's like a retired teacher, they may stay for a long time. But unfortunately, it is high turnover. So one of the programs that we try to do at NJSACC is a professional pathways program where we give older youth that are interested in working with kids into these programs. We get them training. And we get them connected to a licensed childcare program so they can go through the actual hiring and employment process and see if we can retain more youth into the programs. And then we really try to work with programs to make sure that there's other benefits so youth development professionals can stay there. But of course, funding and paying them a higher wage always helps. But we do have some high turnover.
But that's cool that kids can have a job. Right?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of them don't get jobs now.
Exactly.
In high school and college if they're going
Exactly.
local.
Yep, exactly. So if they're able to get to the program, then we follow them for a year. We give them training. We have a course that we do online called Afterschool 101 that gives them the basics of working with kids, child development processes. We also give them training in supporting positive behavior because a lot of times when you have a 17, 18, 19-year-old, they're working with kids that they're not much older than. And so they may need a little extra assistance in how to work with kids. And so we provide that training for them as well. And then again, get them connected to a licensed childcare program so they can go through the appropriate background checks to make sure that they are following licensing requirements and regulations.
So do the students or the young people find you, or do the different programs say, oh, I have 3 kids I want to?
We find them. We find them. So we have partnerships with, we have a partnership with Jobs for America's Graduates, which is run by the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And so they work with older youth within high schools to find them post-secondary education or employment opportunities. And so we go into the schools and say, hey, this is what after school and out of school time is. It's not just a summer job. This can be an entire career. And so we teach them, talk to them about what the after school and out of school time career looks like. I always use myself as an example. I started out as a school camp counselor. Now I'm the CEO of NJSACC. And so we show them that there's a career path. Sometimes they think they may want to be teachers, and sometimes they can be. And sometimes people realize that teaching is not for them, but they still want to work with kids. And so we show them that after school and out of school time is a path to do that. So once we meet the kids and they say they're interested, they fill out a short application, and we kind of talk to them to see where their interests are. And then if they, go through the process, and again, we have them do in-person training, we have them do online training, and then we get them connected to a licensed childcare provider that's looking for what normally starts out as summer camp staff, and then hopefully it turns into after-school employment that can go throughout the school year.
Ebony, that's really wonderful. So let's say a parent wants to find their child a job, a potential job. Is there information about this on the NJSACC's website?
It isn't right now because it is a pilot program that we started, but we could always, they can always reach out to us and help. And so what we're trying to do is expand the program and start to work with workforce development agencies that work with people, and not just youth, but anybody that wants to work in after school and out of school time, and try to get them connected. So we're trying to find additional funding for that for us, because it's a bit of a passion project for us at NJSACC. But really, if people reach out and they're interested and we can get a formal connection, because we also want to make sure, especially if they're younger, that they have parent permission, all those things like that. But they could definitely reach out to us, but it's something we're looking to do funding for, because it does, there is some capacity that we need on our end to be able to provide the training and visit schools and different programs.
No, it sounds like a wonderful opportunity. And again, I think kids working with other kids is great, but also as a job for during the school year and a little responsibility.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out the full conversation by clicking the link in the top right corner or the link in the description. And be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you enjoyed the video and want to be updated when our new interviews are released.